Welcome back in this video session of nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy part 5. In the previous part we have seen what are the solvents we can use it to record an proton NMR. We have also seen an empirical rule, that is n+1, and we have seen the Pascal triangle. Okay, now in this particular session we will be discussing how we can draw or remember the Pascal triangle. Okay, so the empirical rule what we have discussed in the previous session, that is n+1. Okay, so where what is this n? N is the number of protons in the neighboring carbon atom. So if the value of n is 0, then it will be 0 plus 1, it will remain 1. So that means it will be a singlet. Okay, so the multiplicity will not be there, it will be just a singlet peak. If the value of n is 1, then it will be 1 plus 1, it will be a 2, then in that case the multiplicity is a doublet. Okay, so how we can draw this Pascal triangle? So the signals are not only splitting into a doublet or triplet, but they are also having a very particular intensity of these peaks. Okay, and that can be understood with the help of this Pascal triangle. Okay, so to draw the Pascal triangle we can start with a singlet, okay, where n is 0. Okay, so this will be giving only single peak in an NMR spectra that represent as a singlet. Then if the value of n is 1, then it will be 1 plus 1, it will be a doublet. So we can draw like this. Okay, so this will be 1:1. So you will be getting a two lines of equal intensity, so that is indicating here 1:1. Okay, now in the triplet, what will happen in the triplet, how we can draw it here? So exactly at the center of this 1 we can make it 2. Okay, so this is 1:2:1, where the n is, how much n is here? It is 2. So we can write n is 2 here, where n is 1 here, and in this case n is 0 here. Okay, then for a triplet again we can copy this 1. So on the periphery it is always the 1. Okay, then here it is 2, so I will make it now 3 here. Okay, so this will be a quartet. So 4 lines will be coming for a particular set of proton. So it will be 1:3:3:1. Okay, so this will be the case where n is equal to 3. So 3 plus 1, it will be a quartet. Okay, now for pentate again we can write it as 1 and 1 here, then it will be 4 here and it will be 4 here. Okay, and at the center we will be writing here 6. Okay, so if the value of n is 4, so it will be 4 plus 1, it will be a pentate. Okay, so the signal is showing 5 lines, so it will be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, it will be appearing as a pentate. Okay, again for sextate, again I can write it 1 here and 1 on this side. Then as it was 4 here, we can write it here 5, and similarly here also we can write it 5. Okay, now here we have to write it 10, and here also we have to write it 10. Okay, so this will be a, how many lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So this is appearing as a sextate, and the number of protons in the neighboring carbon atoms are 5 here. Okay, then again moving ahead, I can write it here 1 and 1. Then we can increase this 6 here, then here it will be 6, and then here it will be 15, here it will be 15, and exactly at the center it will be 20. Okay, so in this case this is how many lines? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Okay, so when we will get septate, when the number of protons in the neighboring carbon atoms are 6. Okay, so we can write this as a, so this will be a singlet, this will be a singlet, then we have a doublet, okay, then we have a triplet, then we have a quartet, then we have a pentate, okay, then sextate, and then septate. Okay, so this is how we can easily draw the Pascal triangle, and this Pascal triangle is also referred as inverted tree diagram. Okay, so if you carefully look this, it is exactly opposite to the tree, how it looks like. Okay, so usually the tree is like this, right, but this is exactly opposite. So at the base it is flat, and on the top it is going at pointed, right? So you can see it is a triangle, right, and to be more precise, it is an inverted tree diagram. And by drawing this inverted tree diagram or Pascal triangle, we can predict the intensity of the multiplates. Okay, so if I am getting a singlet, there is no problem, it will be just a single line. If I am getting a doublet, so the doublet will be like this. Okay, so it will be 1:1 here, so they will have equal intensity. If I want to draw a triplet, okay, so the triplet will be here, in this case it will be like this, correct? So the first and the last line is of same intensity, and the center line is of double intensity. Okay, so if it is a quartet, okay, so it will be like this. So this is a quartet. So we can go on drawing these kinds of lines with this particular intensity. Okay, so this is how we can remember the Pascal triangle, or we can draw the Pascal triangle, and this is helping out to identify the intensities of this particular signals. Okay, now the next important point, that is the coupling constant. Okay, now this coupling constant is represented with capital J letter, and this is usually written in the italics. Okay, so this coupling constant is also known as the scalar coupling. It is also known as scalar coupling. Okay, that is another name, and it is very popularly referred as a J value. Okay, so what this J value is, it is the distance between the peaks in a simple multiplate is known as coupling constant. Okay, so whenever we are getting more than single line for a particular set of proton, okay, let's say we can draw it here a simple doublet. Okay, so in this case, let's say this is a one set of proton, I will write it as a set A. Okay, set A proton. Now for set A proton, the neighboring carbon atom is 1, that's why it has splitted into a doublet. Okay, it has splitted into a doublet, and the line intensity is 1:1 here. Okay, now if we measure the distance between these two lines, okay, so what we can do, we can have a scale and we can measure this particular distance. Okay, so this distance is nothing but the coupling constant, or it is the value of J, and this value of J has a unit of Hertz. Okay, it has a unit of Hertz. So this is a in short, it measures the effectiveness of coupling between the protons. Okay, so when the protons are getting coupled with each other, in what magnitude they are going to couple with each other, that will be identified by calculating the value of J. And how to calculate the J value? Just here to measure the distance between the adjacent lines. Okay, now let's say if you are getting a triplet, so we have seen as per the Pascal triangle, the triplet is 1:2:1. Okay, now in case of triplet, how we can measure the coupling constant? So coupling constant is what? It is a distance between the peaks in a multiplet okay, that is known as coupling constant. So this is basically the distance between the adjacent lines. Okay, so how we can draw it here? So this is the J value, so this is the first line and this is the second line. Okay, and again I can have a distance measurement in between the second line and the third line, so this is also referred as a J. Okay, so in short, if I want to calculate the distance between the first line and the third line, this entire distance, this will be how much? It will be a 2J. Okay, so the distance between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3, it remains constant. Okay, let's say if here the distance is, let's say 8 Hertz in between first and second line, so in between second and third line also the distance will be 8 Hertz. Okay, so this is the coupling constant. So it is a distance between the adjacent lines in a particular multiplate. Okay, that is referred as a coupling constant or the scalar coupling. Okay, so we will again simplify in a better way. Let's take an example of our simple molecule CH3 CH2OH. Okay, so this is a ethanol. Now in this particular molecule, how many signals we can expect? How many signals we can expect here? So obviously there are 3 sets of protons. I can code it as set A, set B and set C. Okay, so CH3 proton, CH2 proton and OH proton. Among these we can also have the consideration of factors affecting chemical shift, and we can decide which one is more shielded and which one is more de-shielded. Okay, so obviously the CH3 protons are, these CH3 protons are highly shielded. Okay, then after that the CH2 proton, they are moderately shielded or moderately de-shielded, and this OH proton, because it is attached to oxygen which is electronegative, okay, so that will be pulling its electron from the proton and it is making de-shielded. Okay, so this is highly de-shielded. This is highly de-shielded. Okay, now when we have an NMR spectra for this particular molecule, okay, so in NMR spectra we remember on x-axis we have a delta value in ppm, so that is a chemical shift, and on y-axis we have the intensity, signal intensity, right? So towards the right side we usually plot the TMS, which is acting as the internal standard, and this is up to 13 or 12. Okay, now we get a small peak for TMS, and with reference to TMS we are plotting the other signals. Okay, now if I talk about the splitting pattern here with the empirical rule n+1, so in this case for this CH3, so we can draw this structure in a very simplified format to understand this coupling constant. So this is another set of proton, and then we have the OH like this. Okay, now when we talk about the CH3 which are highly shielded, okay, so the neighboring carbon is this, and this is how many protons? One proton is here and the other proton is here, so there are 2 protons. Okay, there are 2 protons, so n is 2 plus 1, it will be a triplet. Okay, it will be a triplet, so I can write the set A will be appearing as a triplet. Then CH2 proton, the neighboring carbon is only here. Okay, the other neighbor is oxygen. Okay, so here there are 3 protons in the neighboring carbon atom, so obviously the set B or CH2 proton will be appearing as a quartet, and the OH proton, there are no question of neighboring carbon atom, so this will be appearing as a singlet here. Okay, so when we draw this NMR spectra here, so we will be getting, for this CH3 we will be getting a triplet. Okay, we will be getting a triplet, and the triplet intensity is 1:2:1. So we can draw here, this is 1:2:1. Okay, and then moderately shielded or moderately de-shielded, that is set B, so that have 3 protons in the neighboring carbon atom, so it will be a quartet. Okay, so the quartet usually appear as 1:3:3:1. Okay, so that will be a quartet, and for OH we will be getting a singlet here. This kind of singlet will be appearing for the OH proton like this. Okay, so this is for set C, this is for set B, and this is for set A. Okay, now again coming back to our concept of coupling constant. Okay, now what is happening here when we talk about the set A? Okay, so this is a set A. Now in this set A, let's say I consider this as a proton 1, as a proton 2, and proton 3 here. So proton 1 is getting coupled with this proton. Okay, so how it is getting coupled? Through the bonds. So 1 bond, 2 bond, and 3 bond. Okay, so this is a 3 bond coupling of this particular proton 1 to this proton. Okay, I will refer it as a proton A. Similarly, this same proton 1 can also couple with this proton B, again by 1 bond, 2 bond, and 3 bond. Okay, so this is called as a 3J coupling. 3J coupling. Okay, now here this proton, type 2 proton here, or second proton, is also getting coupled with this 1, 2, and 3 bond coupling. Okay, similarly it is also coupling with proton B here. So 1 bond coupling, 2 bond coupling, and 3 bond coupling. Similarly, this third proton is also getting coupled to proton A by 1 bond coupling, 2 bond coupling, and 3 bond coupling. Okay, so that means this proton, the methyl proton, is getting coupled in exactly the same way with these CH2 protons. Okay, so the coupling constant will remain same. Similarly, the CH2 proton is also getting coupled with these methyl protons, 3 methyl protons, in a exactly same way. That means the scalar coupling of CH2 proton with CH3 proton and vice versa is exactly same, or it is a similar. That's why the coupling constant is also exactly same. So if I measure the distance between these quartet, so the distance so this is a line 1, line 2, line 3, and line 4. So if I measure the distance between the first and second line of this quartet, okay, by putting a scale here, whatever the J value comes here, so let's say this J value is coming as a 8 Hertz. So the same distance will be there also in between line number 2 and 3 and line number 3 and 4. Okay, so all these signals will have the 8 Hertz. Similarly, in case of this triplet, the distance between line 1 and 2 and line 2 and 3 is also exactly same. Okay, so this signal, if you consider this as a line 1, this as a line 2, and this as a line 3, so in between line 1 and 2, that will also be a 8 Hertz, and in line 2 and 3, that will also be a 8 Hertz. Okay, so in all these multiplets, this quartet and this triplet, the distance between the adjacent lines is 8 Hertz. Okay, now we can understand the coupling constant in a more better way by taking another example. Now let's say I have one signal in the NMR spectra and it is appearing as a doublet. Okay, so let's say we have one signal here like this. So we are thinking that it is a doublet, it is appearing, or it is looking like a doublet. Okay, now this particular NMR spectra I have recorded with the instrument of 60 megahertz. Okay, so this is a instrument specification, so it is working at 60 megahertz. Now consider I am recording the same sample with 100 megahertz. So in that case, okay, I should get the same doublet. Okay, now what is happening here, you can see, if I record the same sample at higher megahertz, the distance between these two lines which are appearing as a doublet, which were looking like a doublet, that has increased. Now if I consider, or if I measure the distance here, let's say it was 2 hertz, okay, but as I have increased the instrument specification from 60 megahertz to 100 megahertz, what is happening, the distance between these two lines has increased. So it is greater than 2, it may be somewhere around 4 or something like that. Okay, so that clearly indicates these two doublets, okay, these two lines are not doublet, but they are two singlets. Okay, so they are actually two singlets here. Okay, because if they are coupling with each other, if they are one set of proton, then the coupling constant will remain constant. Okay, it will remain same. But as you are increasing the instrument specification from 60 hertz to 100 megahertz, okay, it is getting changed. Okay, so that is a clear indication. So in that case, we can say this is a one proton, proton A, and this is a different proton, let's say proton B. So these two protons are not connected to the same carbon, they are totally different here. Okay, because they are departing from each other and the coupling constant is different. Okay, if they are same, let's say if the signal is like this, again it was a 2 hertz, the coupling constant, the value of J is 2 hertz in 60 megahertz instrument, and again if I am recording the same signal with the 100 megahertz, the distance will remain same. So it will be again a 2 hertz even though I am recording at 100 megahertz. That means whatever instrument specification you have, the coupling constant remains same, it will not change. Okay, so that is again an importance of identifying or calculating the J. So you can differentiate the signal whether it is a doublet or whether it is a two singlets. Okay, so that is again an important application of finding out the coupling constant. So that is one thing. Now we can have another set of example how or where this coupling constant is useful. Let's say I have the structure like this. Now in this case we can easily make out there are 4 protons and all these protons are in same chemical environment. Okay, so their chemical environment is same. Now in this case I will be getting or expecting one singlet here. Okay, one singlet here because all they are in identical environment, so we will be getting only one intense signal, which after integration we will get it as a 4H here. Okay, 4H here, these are the alkene protons. Now let's say if you have the structure like this, C double bond C, then here chlorine we have, okay, and here also we have a chlorine, then here one proton and here one proton. Okay, so this is in our organic chemistry we call it as a cis isomer. This is a cis isomer or cis kind of conformation, and opposite to that we have, let's say if chlorine is here and another chlorine is on this side, okay, and one proton is here and another proton is here. Okay, so these two are isomers of each other. Okay, only they are differing in their structural arrangement, but their molecular formula is same. So this is a trans isomer, this is a trans isomer. Okay, now in case of our NMR, okay, the spectra, what the signal it is giving, it is quite difficult to differentiate whether it is a cis isomer or whether it is a trans isomer. So that can be easily differentiated by measuring the coupling constant. So we have a fixed value for the cis isomer and fixed value for the trans isomer. So this proton, so this carbon has one proton and the neighboring carbon has another proton. So here the n is 1, so obviously this signal is appearing as a doublet. Okay, and here this signal, again the neighboring carbon has one proton, so this will appearing as a doublet. So these both protons are chemically identical, their chemical environment is same. Okay, so rather than giving two doublet, they will be giving only one doublet here. So the signal will be like this, they will be giving a one doublet here. So in case of this kind of cis kind of arrangement, usually the coupling constant is usually in between 7 to 12 Hertz. Okay, and to be particular, in this particular structure, this J value between these two lines, the J value is 10.9 Hertz. Okay, whereas again this proton and this proton, they are also in chemically identical environment, so they will be giving only one doublet here, they will be giving only one doublet here. Now in this case the doublet is slightly different than the doublet what we are getting in cis isomer. So in this case, if I measure the coupling constant here, the coupling constant is appearing at 15 Hertz. It is appearing at 15 Hertz. So when you have a trans isomer, usually the trans isomer will appear in between 13 to 18 Hertz. Okay, so in this case, for this particular example, the value of J is 15 Hertz. Okay, so if the value is coming in between this range, we can surely say it is a trans isomer. If the value is coming in between 7 to 12, we can surely say it is a cis isomer. So this is another application of coupling constant. We can identify the or differentiate between the trans and cis isomer. Okay, so these are the coupling constant values which we need to remember. So if we have these kinds of proton, so the approximate coupling constant is in between 0 to 3 Hertz. If we have these sets of proton, the coupling constant is usually in between 6 to 8. So this is what we were talking about. When the protons are in a cis conformation, it will be in between 7 to 12. If they are in a trans conformation, it will be in between 13 to 18 Hertz, right? And again, in case of aromatic compounds, these protons, so we can easily distinguish again whether our benzene ring is a para substituted or ortho substituted or meta substituted. So when the protons when they are at ortho position to each other, so this proton and this proton, they are ortho to each other, so in that case the coupling constant is 6 to 9. The coupling constant is 6 to 9. If the protons are at meta position to each other, okay, if they are meta position to each other, the coupling constant is changing. It is from 6 to 9, now it is 8 to 11. Okay, and if they are para substituted, right, usually the distance has increased, and in that case the coupling constant is 0 to 1 Hertz. Okay, so we can make use of this, and we can identify the structure in a more appropriate way. Then next concept is a magnetic equivalence. So we have already discussed about what is chemical equivalence. Okay, so there is a tagline here. So magnetically equivalent protons are always chemically equivalent, but the chemically equivalent proton does not guarantee, or they are not necessary they are in the same magnetic environment. Okay, so we have studied what is chemically equivalent protons. So when their neighbors are same, they are in same chemical environment, so we consider it as a chemically equivalent protons. What is magnetically equivalent protons? When two nuclei in a molecule, they are said to be magnetically equivalent if they should fulfill these criteria. So first is they have same scalar coupling to all other nuclei in a molecule. Okay, so their coupling constant is same. Then they should have same chemical shift, so the delta value should be same for these two protons which are getting coupled to each other, and their coupling constant, that means again the J value should be same. Okay, so we can take an example. So let's say I have this structure, benzene ring, Okay, and let's say there are 3 chlorine atoms here, and then we have proton A, proton B and proton C. Now when we talk about the signal for this proton A, so the neighboring carbon is this and it has 1 proton, so this proton A will be appearing as a doublet. It will be appearing as a doublet. Similarly, when we talk about this proton C, the neighboring carbon is this as well as this, but here there is no proton and this carbon has 1 proton, so this will be also appearing as a doublet. Okay, and you can see the proton A and proton C, they are also said to be in same chemical environment. So proton A and proton C, they are chemically equivalent. They are chemically equivalent because their neighbors are same. Okay, because their neighbors are same. So this proton A is getting coupled with this proton B through 1 bond, 2 bond and 3 bond coupling. Similarly, the proton C is also getting coupled with proton B, same proton, right, to whom this proton A has coupled. So it will be 1 bond coupling, 2 bond coupling and 3 bond coupling. Okay, so proton A and proton C, they are getting coupled with the same proton with same scalar coupling. Okay, so this is in this case all these 3 criteria are fulfilling, and we can say proton A and proton C, they are chemically equivalent as well as they are magnetically equivalent. Okay, they are magnetically equivalent. Now let's say consider we have another example like this, where we have chlorine here, then protons here like this. Now consider I am assigning this as proton D and this as proton C. Okay, let this be as A and this as a B. Now in this case, when we talk about this proton D and proton C, okay, proton D and proton C, so are they chemically equivalent? You can see the immediate neighbor is chlorine here, and then proton A and this proton. Similarly for this also we can have a center of symmetry here or line of symmetry, and we can say proton D and proton C, they are chemically equivalent. Okay, proton D and proton C, they are chemically equivalent in this example, but whether they are magnetically equivalent or not. So what is happening here, the proton D is appearing as a doublet because the neighboring carbon has 1 proton, that is proton A, so this will appear as a doublet. Similarly the proton C, again the neighboring carbon atom is here HB, and this will also appear as a doublet. Okay, but this proton is not coupling to proton A. Okay, it is coupling with whom? It is coupling with proton B, whereas this D proton is not coupling with proton B, but it is coupling with A. Okay, so in such case proton D and proton C are said to be not magnetically equivalent. Okay, they are chemically equivalent, but they are not magnetically equivalent because their partners for coupling are different. So for proton D, the coupling partner is A, and for proton C, the coupling partner is B. Okay, which is different than this. So that's why we can consider here proton D and proton C, they are in different magnetic environment. They may be in same chemical environment, but they are not magnetically same environment. Okay, so that's what we can say. The magnetically equivalent protons are always in a chemically equivalent environment, but the chemically equivalent proton not necessary, they are in same magnetic environment. Okay, so in this case proton A and proton C, they are chemically as well as magnetically equivalent. Okay, so their coupling constant is same, but in this case proton D and proton C, they are chemically equivalent. They will appear at same delta value, but their coupling partners are different, so they are not magnetically equivalent. Okay, so with this we will stop. Thank you.